Alrighty, guys. So we are reading Monster High, Monster Rescue Operation Find Cleo. And we will, this is a new book, so I'm going to try to put 3 different sections on this, but um, we're going to be at chapter 1, page 4. Page 1. Sorry, guys. With her headphones on and the door shut tight, Draculaura sang her heart out as she danced along in the moonlight. And why shouldn't she? No one could hear her, no one could see her. Usually that's bothered Draculaura a lot. As a vampire hiding out in the normie world, her entire life revolved around Scary. Oh my gosh, sorry guys, I can't talk today. Sneaky and Scully around to make sure that no human knew she ever existed. Her dad, Dracula, insisted on it. After the great monster flight, monsters like Draculaura and her dad had gone into hiding for their own protection, leading to total dull and lonely lives. But even Draculaura had to admit that hiding could come in handy, like when she wanted to belt out the latest song by Tash, her all-time favorite musician, and practice some fantastic new dance moves. Even so, she would have gladly given up complete and total privacy to have some ghoul friends of her very own. Draculaura was so caught up in dancing that she didn't hear the soft tap, tap, tap at her window. The tapping grew louder as she still didn't notice. Luckily, her pet, a spider named Webby, was paying attention. Webby spun in front of Draculaura and frantically pointed at the window to get her attention. Draculaura spun around and discovered her dad hanging upside down, outside, looking in. "Come on, Draculaura," Dracula said. "You are ready." Draculaura's eyes grew wider. Then the full moon gleaming outside. "Oh, right, it's tonight," she exclaimed as she pulled off her headphones. Then Draculaura took a deep, steadying breath. "Right," she told herself, "and I can do this." I wonder if a wondered frown flickered across Dracula's face. "But we don't have to do it right now," he said quickly. "Why don't we try it some other time when you're more comfortable?" Draculaura raised an eyebrow. "I'm comfortable now, Dad," she said. It was no surprise that he wanted to postpone her flying lesson. He would do anything to protect his own only daughter. "I'm just saying," Dracula said. Draculaura rolled her eyes as she climbed out the window, but the truth was she thought it was totes adorable that her dad was as nervous about her first flight as she was. Maybe even more nervous in her heart, though. Draculaura suspected that she and her dad were nervous for different reasons. Draculaura was jittery because sorry guys. Okay, sorry. She had no idea what it would be like to fly. But Dracula was worried because tonight would mark Draculaura's very first venture into the outside world. The night sky sparkled with stars, and the full moon hung so low that Draculaura thought she could reach out and grab it. In just moments, she would be flying through the velvety sky, free and rambling old house high of Monster Hill. The house where Draculaura had grown up was enormous, with tons of torrents and perfectly creepy cupolas. But despite the massive size, it sometimes felt like more of a prison than a home. Draculaura's eyes were shiny when she turned back to her father, but he didn't seem to share her excitement. He looked even more worried than he had before. "Now remember, you can never be too cautious," Dracula told her. "The outside world is a scary place, filled with humans." Draculaura pretended to cower as her covered. her face with her hands. "Oh no," she said in a fake scared voice. "Not the humans." "This is no laughing matter," Dracula replied. "They may look innocent enough, but humans are one of the most dangerous species on Earth." But Dracula was just getting started. Oh, dangerous. More dangerous than the swarm of killer robot bees. Bzzz." She darted and dodged around the rooftop, pretending to be a bee in flight. But Dracula was not amused. "I was about to make a very critical point," he said as he adjusted his heavy rimmed glasses. Dracula had heard it all before, about 1,000,000,000 times. "Stay away from humans," she finished for him. "Stay away from humans," Dracula repeated, amusing. Oh my gosh. Each of every symbol. It's still that you never let one see you. They're just not ready to accept us, at least not yet. Promise me, vamps. Honor? "Ugh, I promise," Dracula said, giving in. She knew there'd be no hope of free flying if she didn't. "Now, if you don't mind," Dracula squeezed her eyes shut, concentrating so hard that her whole face scrubbed up. Then she took off running, first at a jog, then a sprint, then a sudden springing, leaping into the air, and poof! In one sudden position, Dracula transformed into a bat. There was just one problem: her wings. Something was seriously wrong with them. They were tiny, itty-bitty, like the wings of a baby bat, totally useless for flying or anything else. Dracula fell down onto the roof with a thud. "Ugh," she groaned, and she morphed back into her vampire form. Dracula reached out a hand to help Dracula pull herself up. Dracula brushed the dust from her hot pink skirt with the bat-shamed over skirt, a little embarrassed by her epic failure. "Not all vampires get the bat transformation on their first try," Dracula said encouragingly. "Second time's the charm." Dracula nodded, even more determined to succeed. She put all her focus and all her energy into psyching herself up, then took several steps backwards until she was teetering on the very edge of the roof. After taking a deep breath, Dracula started to run faster than she'd ever run before. Just before she reached the edge of the roof, she leaped without even looking, and poof! "Yes!" Dracula cheered loudly as Dracula transformed into a bat. "That's my ow. Dracula couldn't help cringing at his watch. Dracula's flying leap into the flying floop. She tumbled down to the ground, hitting every overgrown bramble bush in the way. "I'm all right," Dracula cried. Whoop. "I got this." Whoop. "No, need help." Thunk. With sticks and twigs poking out of her hair, Dracula dragged herself back up to the roof. "Ugh, I can't do this. It's impossible," she groaned. "It's not impossible, just challenging," Dracula told her. "Come on, let's try it together. 1, 2. Before he reached 3, Dracula leaped off the roof and with a winged flip in the mid-air, transformed into a bat. He flew around the rooftop, showing Dracula how to do it by example. Dracula tilted her head, watching very closely. She took her deep breath. "Here goes nothing," Dracula thought. She ran hard, she leaped high. Poof! This time it was different. Dracula could feel it right away. Her wings were so strong. She flapped them with total joy, and she soared into the night sky. "I did it!" she shrieked with glee. "Ha! That's my ghoul," Dracula said proudly. Together, Dracula and her father flew high, as monster high, their bat forms silhouetted against the golden moon. Dracula's heart beat wildly. She almost felt dizzy, and it wasn't because of the high altitude. No, it was the feeling of freedom and opportunity, the feeling that now that she was out of the house, anything could happen. Anything was possible. The human town glittered in the distance, even as Draculaura darted through the trees, doing her best to avoid the prickly branches. Her gaze kept drifting over the place where humans got to be at this free every single day of their lives. Do they have an idea how lucky they are? She wondered wisely. Then something even brighter caught her eye. Just beyond the tree, the electrical billboard flashed with rapid pulses of light. Draculaura couldn't help it. She was drawn to it. A quick pivot, a fast flip, and she was on her way to take the better look, leaving her dad behind. After a few moments, Draculaura realized that the billboard was playing a video of the one and only Tash. And that wasn't all. The billboard told Draculaura that Tash was about to launch a major tour of her new album, and she would be coming here. Draculaura's eyes went all starry, and her imagined it, Tash coming to town, playing all Draculaura's favorite songs in person. It would be incredible. No, better than incredible. It would be crash. Ouch, Draculaura cried as she sprangled down to the hard ground below. Where had that telephone pole come from? Somehow, in the midst of her fantasy, Draculaura had even seen it. She sat up and glanced around in embarrassment. Luckily, it didn't really hurt. Who flies into a pole? She wondered, rubbing the small bump on her head. With a sudden whoosh, Dracula landed by his daughter's side. Drac, are you all right? He explained in concern. Yes, I'm fine, I think. Draculaura replied with a cracked smile. One must never distract while flying, Dracula replied. Come on, let's get back up there. Draculaura and her dad sorrowed up into the night sky again. So, what were you thinking about anyway? Dracula asked. Draculaura snuck into a glance at Tash. Billboard, which seemed pretty more dazingly as she flew closer to it. Would he understand? She wondered. There was only one way to find out. Pop, can I ask you something? Draculaura asked in such a rush that her words came tumbling out. Okay, there was this amazing girl, Tash. She's a big star, and all the normal girls my age are obsessed with her. Draculaura could tell that even in his bat form, her dad was frowning. Normal girls? He repeated. You mean human? Tash is only undeniably creeptastic, Draculaura gushed. Cut to the chase, her dad replied. Can I go to her concert? Draculaura begged. It's only like 3 towns over, and I'll be super careful. Please. Pretty please, with a cobwebs on top. Dracula didn't even have to think about it. Drac, no, I'm sorry, it's too dangerous, he replied firmly. Monsters don't belong in the human world. But please, Draculaura began, but Dracula didn't even let her finish. With a heavy sigh, he turned around and started flying back to their house on the hill. The message was crystal clear. No conversation was over. If monsters don't belong in the human world, then where do I belong? Draculaura wondered. She wasn't sure of the answer, but right now Draculaura knew it wasn't the house on the hill. Not again. Not tonight. She flapped her wings furiously and sped off to the opposite direction. Drac, wait! Dracula called to her, but it was too late. Draculaura was already zipping through the night sky at a furious pace, dodging streetlights and tree branches until she was sure she had slipped away in the field of wildflowers just outside the human town. Draculaura landed. She hid among the tall weeds until she spotted her father fluttering overhead, searching for her. Only then, after her father had flown past her, did Draculaura dare to transform into her vampire self. Her pale face was scrunching up in frustration. Dracula groaned. Dad always says that. The human world is too dangerous. Well, I'm in danger of losing my mind. In the open clear, Dracula finally felt free enough to let out all her frustrations. At last, she could just be herself. After all, she was completely and totally alone, right? Dracula's voice echoed across the field to the Dracula. Even though she was annoyed, she couldn't miss the anxious edge of his voice. Dracula, where are you? Dracula called. Dracula knew what she had to do. With a heavy sigh, and she transformed him into a bat and flew up into the sky. I'm here, Dad. She said as she flew towards him. A flicker of annoyance flashed through Dracula's eyes, but it was no match for the relief Dracula saw there too. What were you thinking? He explained. Someone could have seen you. The high doubt that Dracula thought, but she didn't say anything as she and Dracula flew back to the house on the hill. So much for her big adventure. The moment of heavy doors closed behind them, Dracula seemed to relax. That wasn't so bad, was it? He said. We're home now, safe and sound. Yep, Dracula said. Safe and sound. Then she pretended to yawn. I'm pretty tired from all that flying. I think I'll go lay down in my coffin. Dracula couldn't tell. She wasn't very convincing, but right now she didn't really care. She had to escape to her room, away from her dad, who just couldn't understand how stifling her lonely lives were. Back in her room, Dracula flipped on her webcam and started pacing back and forth. I'm almost 1600 years old. I'm extremely responsible. I do all my chores, maintain every single cobweb in the house, and, she ratted. Dracula leaned close to the webcam and lowered her voice before continuing. And I'll always be stuck here, hiding in the attic, hiding from the world, she continued glumly, but before she could get bummed, Dracula's managed a smile. But at least I have you guys. I'm trusting vampology vlogger followers. With her finger crossed, Dracula snuck a glance at the computer screen. A small window listed how many subscribers she had. 0. But surely somebody is out there, right? Dracula wondered. Well, if any of my fellow weirdos are out there listening, have a good evening. I'm off to bed. Dracula finished. Then, just as she turned off the webcam, she heard something behind her. It was her dad, and from the look on his face, he definitely overheard her. The only question was, how much did he know? Or I was just Dracula said nervously, a strange half-smile, part sympathetic, part concerned across Dracula's face. How about I make us a nice pot of bat tea? He asked kindly. Before Dracula could respond, something complete, unexpected, shocking, earth-shattering even happened at the doorbell rang. And that is the end of part 1, guys. Next chapter is going to be part 2.